Hello, embodied YouTubers. Thanks for joining me. I'm Megan. I appreciate knowing you're out there, whether it's through comments, donations, just even subscribing. It's really important for all of us to remember right now that there are many of us all over the world that want to improve our own inner being for the greater good of all. And I've been playing and organically creating the practice we're going to do right now because I find that when I'm playful in my practice, it takes me into my heart space. So just take a moment and maybe place your hands on your heart, see what's in there. And we'll allow ourselves to be playful today. And if in that space you would like to send grace or love or strength, anything else into the world as a whole or to the people of Ukraine, please do so. And we're going to get started. So we're working today with the playfulness is in the joints of the legs, the ankles, the knees, and the hips. But along with that playfulness, there's stability, there's strength, and that's going to come from the core. So we're going to explore how the core can help to give us that internal stability so that we can find more mobility with our legs. And you may want a towel around because there are some points where it may go underneath you, either your knees or your hips. But we're going to come right down onto the floor to get started. Place one hand on your belly and one on your heart. Just feel yourself breathe for a moment. See where you are in your breath. And then, like you're first waking up, we're going to take a full body stretch. Take your legs out long and your arms overhead. Take a big breath in. Let your back arch and make your arms and legs as long as you can. Feel the muscles tighten and hug the bones. Take a few breaths in that long, engaged stretch. And then on your next breath out, let your whole body just fall into the floor. And if that means more comfort, bringing your arms down to your sides, or maybe you want to jelly roll your arms and or your legs. Let as much of your back body be in contact with the floor as can be. The backs, the heels, the calves, the buttocks. Your back and spine and the base of the skull. Feel the support. Always remember that support. That's our landing and locating where you are. Maybe in your room. You can visualize the room around you with your eyes closed, that you're in a safe space. You're in a comfortable space, a familiar space. And then we'll bend our knees. Place the feet on the floor. We're going to work first into the toes. So if you would like to take your right leg up, you can do it that way. If that feels like too much work, it's a little more work for the thigh muscles. You can also keep your right leg long and just let the leg come down to the ground. Start it and you'll find out what you need. I'm going to lift today because I want a little more strength. And then you're going to take your foot so that you're reaching the top of the foot towards the ceiling. That's plantar flexion. You'll feel the sole of the foot tighten up. And then just begin to move the toes. And if your leg wants to be back here more, that's fine. Maybe close your eyes and feel your toes moving. Big toe can go in circles, so you may be doing this with your leg down here relaxed, and that's fine too. But moving your toes, exploring. And then we'll feel the top of the foot, draw that towards the shin, so the calf will stretch and the shin will tighten. That's your dorsiflexion. And do the same thing, just move your toes again. So if you're down on the ground, you can be here. You'll feel your heel lift off the ground a little bit. Just notice the muscles that are helping you to coordinate the toe movement. Now you can feel the sole of the foot stretching out. Then add a little bit more of that playfulness in and just take your ankle in circles. Really slow, going all the way around. And that opportunity to be present in sensation in your body. Our body is a great communicator when we allow it to be. It always has things to say to us. And you can switch the direction of the circles. So we're acknowledging not just the toes now, but the ankle itself. And then if your leg is extended, please bring it up. We're going to go into the knee joint. And when we do the knee joint, if you'd like to use your hands to the back of the thigh, you can. If you find that strains your shoulders, just keep your arms at your sides. You're going to drop the heel down, let the leg hang, and align the knee more over the hip. So if your leg's back here, push it forward so the thigh bone's straight up and down from the floor. And then as you breathe in, extend the leg. And as you breathe out, come down. So we try to initiate this movement from the knee, moving from the knee joint, so keeping the toes and the ankle relaxed. You will be able to feel the coordination of the muscles in the front and the back of the thigh. Notice how they shorten in the front as you extend and lengthen in the back. That hamstring stretch, waking them up. Just a few more knee bends. Acknowledging your knee joint. Next time the heel's down, think of the circumference of your hip crease and begin to slowly make circles from the hip. And this is the easy version of this leg movement, but you'll want to familiarize yourself with these joint movements because we're going to do them again, but we're going to require the core to hold us up when we do it. So when we're on the floor, the back body, the core gets to relax. And we can just focus on the movement of the joint. You can switch the direction of that hip circle. Even here though, as you start to move the hips, you might place a hand on your belly and notice if you feel some of your core muscles, particularly as you come out to the side and back to the center. Checking in with your breath. And then take both legs long again. Take that full body stretch, that full body yawn. You can even breathe in your nose. And exhale out the mouth. Let go, land. And see if you can keep your awareness in your body from your toes to your hips, right and left leg. That magic moment of just letting the mind notice any differences. And then we'll do the same movement pattern for the joints and the left leg. So you can slide the knees into a bent position, heels underneath the knees. You can extend the left leg and let the weight of leg relax into the ground to do the foot, or you can take it up here. And either way, take the foot into plantar flexion. So feel the top of the ankle stretch and the calf tighten, and then just begin to move your toes. See if you can hold the ankle in that position still and just moving your toes. Those big toes can circle, they can squeeze together. Try to touch the sole of your foot and then pull away. Again, you can be doing this down here. And the opposite now, draw the top of the foot towards the shin. The shin bone will tighten, or the muscles, and the calf will stretch. And you're going to move the toes again. Sense the coordination of muscles in the sole of the foot as they stretch now. Calf stretching. Waking up your feet. And then we'll move into the ankle, slowly creating some circles with that left ankle. Go all the way around, keep the toes relaxed. So this one too, you might still be doing on the ground here. And the idea of isolating that movement, especially if you're on the ground, notice that your leg itself is not rocking back and forth, the thigh, it's just your ankle moving. You can switch the direction of the circles. This is the easy part, the enjoyable. Hopefully it's all enjoyable. And then we'll be coming into the knee joint. So if your leg is extended, bend it. You can place the hands on the back of the thigh if it's not straining. Otherwise, just keep the arms relaxed on the ground. Drop the heel down, align the knee over the front of the hip so the thigh bone is 90 degrees from the floor. As you breathe in, extend up. And as you breathe out, slowly come down. And it's easy to try to push through the heel and use the foot. Keep the foot and the lower leg as relaxed as you can. Think of initiating from your knee joint so you really can sense the relationship between the muscles in the front of the thigh and the back, how well one stretches, the other contracts. Wanting to identify in our own bodies what it feels like to shorten muscles and what it feels like to lengthen muscles. Just the movement, that freedom. One more knee bend. And then you can picture the whole circumference of your hip crease and begin to make some nice, easy, slow circles with the left hip. All the way around. You might sense some muscles in the pelvis and the hips themselves helping to make this movement. And exploring your end range of motion. You can switch directions. And take that left leg down. Once again, take both legs long. Take a full body yawn. Make yourself as long as you can. Breathe in and out. And on your next breath out, drop in. Release completely into the ground. Pausing for 3 rounds of breath, feeling both legs from the toes up through the hips. Way your torso is supported as well as the weight of the legs. Bend your knees, slide your feet in. Grab a hold of the backs of the thighs. And we're going to start to be even more playful. So if this doesn't work for you, you can roll to one side, use your arms, but begin to rock a little bit. Build some momentum. Rock back and forth. See if you can come up or how far you can come up. As again, anytime you can use your hands if you'd rather. But we're using our core to bring ourselves up. Just rocking back and forth. And sooner or later, you'll rock up and we can stay there. So now we're going to flip it over. We're going to come to all fours. So this is where if you have a towel and you want to put that towel underneath your knees for extra padding, you're welcome to do that. We're coming into what we call table pose. Your ankles are out, your knees are under the hips and hands are underneath your shoulders. Just pausing there for a moment. And if you feel like you're dropping your belly, take a breath out. As you take your breath out, lift up. So I have a whole class on core and engaging the 4 deep core muscles. So this is a short version of that. You're lifting up. So you're taking that banana arch out of your low back, just lifting up just slightly. And then stay strong through both arms, push the floor away, let the weight transfer into your left leg, and you're going to lift your right leg up. You can keep it on the floor if you'd rather, so the foot on the floor for more support. Should probably move this way. Or you can lift it up, it's going to be a little more work. But I just want you to, again, do those same movements we did when we were on the floor. So you're going to extend your toes and then extend the sole of your foot and then move your toes again. So you can do this on the floor too. Foot on the floor. But notice how now that we're lifting the leg, especially if you're lifting it, your core has to help to hold your leg there. We'll do it a little quicker than we were on the floor. Now take that foot into the dorsiflexion. So draw the top of the foot towards the shin. Again, you can do this down here and still move your toes with a little support. Otherwise, keep it lifted and move your toes. And watch as we do this, that we're not collapsing our body. Can you stay strong, belly lifted, or think of puffing up the backside of your body a little bit towards the sky? And then knee joint. Just bend in and out of the knee as we did before. And can you stabilize from your core? If for any reason your wrists are giving you grief as we do this, there's the option of doing fists, or you can also come onto your forearms. So it's kind of like no excuses, right? You can be here and you're just bending in and out of your knee. Those same movements we did, but now we're feeling that core support. Draw your belly up and in. You want to take a little break before we do the next one. I'm going to turn towards the camera too. So the last one we did is the hip itself. So you can, this one we will need to lift up. So you can lift up and make some circles. And what I'm trying to do is keep my navel center pointing in the same direction right down at the floor, so I'm not letting my whole pelvis roll to one side. I'm really keeping the core stable and still. I'm just letting the hip joint move. So when we were on the ground, the spine wasn't changing position. Just like that. The spine's not changing position. We're just moving from that circumference of the hip crease. One more circle. And let it come down. Before we go to the second side, we will take a little bit of a break. Take your hips back towards your heels and come into a child's pose. You could do opposite hand to elbow if that's more comfortable, but just resting for a moment. And when you're ready, we'll find all fours again. Coming on to hands and knees, push the floor away so the arms are strong too, and then on exhalation, you can even make a shh sound. Draw your navel center up and in. See if you can keep that sense of drawing into the navel center. So from the navel to the pubis and your two hips, it's like a cinch sack drawing in, and that's going to stay strong for you. This time we'll take the left foot back. You can start by just reaching the left toes. Feel the sole of the foot tighten a little bit and maybe just moving the toes a little bit, keeping the foot low. If you want more work, lift the leg up higher. The higher you lift it, the more work. But I'm not lifting my hip up. I'm keeping both hip points pointing down. Imagine if your back was still resting on the ground. It's not changing its shape. And then draw the top of the foot towards your shin and move the toes again. So it's still the same movement, a whole different world though. Feeling those muscles engaged to move your toes. Sole of the foot stretching, calf stretching. And then we'll go into the knee, so you could let it come down for a moment and rest. There's also a tendency to let the hips fall to the right, so draw that inner right thigh to the left. Keep that strong. You can keep your foot down and just bend in and out of the knee. More support there. Or lift the thigh bone up and bend in and out of the knee. So still feeling support of the thigh muscles moving the knee joint, but now the thigh itself has to be supported by core. Watch that the belly doesn't drop. Every now and then you got to remind yourself, stay strong, lift it up. Option to be on your arms. Remember that too, right? And then next, we'll move into those hip circles. So really slow, feel it all the way around, like you're lubricating that joint. But in lubricating the joint, you're also engaging and strengthening your core. So the more stillness you can keep in your core, the more stability in your core. Versus the leg gets to be mobile and playful. And you can switch the direction, moving from the hip crease. One more round if you'd like. And then take it down, walk your legs back. We're going to come down onto our belly this time. Just cross your opposite hand to elbow. Let your forehead rest on your top arm bone. You can bend your knees and let your feet drop from left to right. So just feel your thighs rolling on the ground. And if you want a moment of stillness, you can let the tops of feet come down The thighs just rest on the ground, the front of the pelvis. Feel yourself breathe. You might notice that your heartbeat got a little bit stronger, telling you that you were finding those stabilizing muscles. And I find it's a balance between focusing on the stability that you need to do this practice, but also feeling your organic nature of just letting yourself be playful in your joints. We'll push up. We're going to come up to a seated position. And I'll start facing you for this next one. Take your hands behind you. Support your spine, so heart forward, shoulders back. And your feet should start at least hip distance apart. They can be a little wider. And we're just going to do some seated windshield wipers. So I like to do this on the inhale. You're going to let the legs fall to one side. If you're doing it to your breath, you don't have to. Inhale, let the legs fall to one side, almost lifting that top hip. And then inhale, come back. And then the other way. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. And inhale. So you'll notice this is mostly about mobility. So within that mobility, you can play with, make this movement from the larger part of your body, from your hips themselves. So really working on lifting that top hip. But if you close your eyes for a moment and feel your feet, the big toe and little toe side, what happens if you start to make this movement from your feet, rolling onto the big toe side of the right foot and the little toe side of the left foot, and vice versa? So if your feet lead the motion and then your knees follow and your hips, how does that feel? We're just getting a little rotation for the torso. And then we're going to stop. So now you do want to make sure your feet are a little bit wider than your hips. So we had our hands supporting us in that joint motion, much like when we were lying on the ground, moving the ankles, knees, and hips. But now we're going to take our hands off the floor. You can keep your hands to your thighs, to your shoulders, whatever works for you, even to your knees to start. We're going to do a small stop to assess, because I always find this interesting to see how much mobility we actually gain in our torso as well. So you're going to do that same rocking, but you're going to let your body come all the way around. Let's go to the right first. Drop both legs to the right, and then rotate, taking both hands to the outside of the right thigh. And pause there for a moment. Your fingertips can come down to the ground. And slowly turn your head without forcing it as far as you can. Look at whatever is in your gazing window. How far can you go? And just kind of remember that. How far does your head turn? How far back can you see behind you? And slowly return to the center. So we're going to work to that side first. So you're going to keep your hands on your thighs, your shins, or up here if you want. And then you're going to exhale and rotate. And inhale back to center. So now I'm not keeping my hands, but I'm still doing that rocking motion, but letting my whole torso come around. You can again move from your hips, place your hands on your hips and feel it. You can initiate the movement from your feet. Let your knees follow your feet and your hips follow your knees, and then the torso rotates. But you could also now start it from your torso. Begin to rotate from the torso. Let the hips follow the knees and then the ankles. So just playing with how we're creating this rotation and noticing how your core muscles can help to bring the legs around. Or if you're initiating from the feet or the legs, feel how the core comes in and finishes it off for you. And we'll take one more to that side, and then I'm going to just turn so you can see me better. Then we're going to land there. So we're going to land, we call the Z-sit. Your right foot will be somewhere near your knee, your left kneecap. If this is uncomfortable for you, what you can do is bring that towel or blanket in, put it underneath your right hip. So you'll know it's, if like the left hip is way up in the air here, then you might want to lift the right hip up to the height of the left hip. Just make it a little more comfortable to sit like this so that left hip can land down more. Just an option. Now we're going to find that position, and first just make some circles from your torso. We want to be able to sit here comfortably. And then we're going to land with the shoulders over the hips, the spine in a neutral position. Maybe take your nose back a little bit and align the skull. And then you're going to first take your left hand to your outer left knee. Very simple, but you're going to lift the left knee up into the hand as you exhale, and inhale, release it down. So you're going to feel lots of goodies going on in that leg. Just feel the muscles engage, and then release. Probably feel the outer hip and thigh. Just lifting up as high as you can towards the left hand, and then letting it go. Don't have to do it to your breath. So this left leg is an internal rotation. And we've got one more move for the left leg in internal rotation. So now feel the inner knee touching the ground. Keep that, and watch that we're not slumping into our back and spine. Sit up tall on the sit bones, crown of the head reaching towards the sky. Now from that inner knee, you might even place your hand back by your left foot. See if you can lift your left foot even slightly off the ground. I notice my right knee wants to lift too, so I try to tell it to be quiet. Just that left foot. This one tends to cause a little cramping, Charlie horsing in that left hip, so go slower. If you need to extend it, go ahead. I know I felt that a little bit, but just lifting the foot up slightly. And what goes on there? All right, and then let it come down. Next thing we're going to do is take our hands to our hips, and we're going to create an arch and a curl. So we'll do this on the inhalation. You're going to arch the back, meaning bring your pelvis into a forward position, tilt it forward like a bowl. Take your heart forward, but bring your chin towards your chest. So the back of the neck gets long as the low back arches. And then as you exhale, do just the opposite. Press the center of your spine behind you. Let your pelvis tilt backwards like a bowl, shoulders forward, and bring your head up, your gaze up towards the sky. So inhale into the arch, chin towards the chest. Exhale into the curl, chin away from the chest. So there's different ways to explore this movement. The legs are staying still now, but you're going to feel a little bit perhaps in your leg muscles. But it's all going to depend again on where we're initiating. So, having choices is what creates freedom in the body. So you can keep your hands at your hips and feel how your hips are creating this movement. You could also put your hands at your shoulders and let your shoulders really initiate the movement. Let's play with this arch and curl of the spine. Inhaling into the arch, exhaling into the curl. Last one. And then drop. Now you're going to take your left hand back to your left hip. So if you remember when we were lifting up the left knee, there were some muscles engaging in that outer hip. So you might want to lift it again just to feel those. So those are your little hip muscles. I call them your little glutes. But outer hip, feel how you can sense that. So we're going to want to feel those. Take your right hand to the ground just outside that right hip. And then keeping your left hand at your left hip, you're going to inhale. Squeeze those muscles in that outer hip just like when you're lifting the knee off the ground. You can even do that to feel them, just for one. And then rotate towards your right hand. And as you exhale, come back and release. So we inhale, squeeze the muscles in that left butt. Take the left side body and shoulder forward into rotation towards the right shoulder. Let the head follow. And exhale back. The opportunity is there to really initiate from that left hip, squeeze the muscles in that outer hip and the butt cheek, And then let the hip come around, let the torso follow, and all the way through the crown of the head. Or you can start to turn and let the hip follow. Let the torso carry the leg. Just trying both ways. And then once we've found the movement, we're going to change it slightly. We just want to make sure I keep the hand here so I can feel that those muscles are engaging and releasing. So feelers for your nervous system right here, right? Once you know that's happening, then you can take your left hand, place it on your right shoulder, point your elbow towards me, and now you're going to do that same movement, but really reach your elbow, stretch through that left side body, and come back. And let your head start to lead this movement a few times. Turn all the way to the back wall, and all the way back to the left shoulder. So you're looking over the right shoulder as you breathe in, and the left shoulder as you breathe out. Next time, take it into your full rotation to the right. Hold there and just let the head go back and forth a few times. Go as far as you can to the left. Just like you're nodding no. Okay, release the left hand to the ground. We're going to come all the way down towards the ground. So forearms first. Maybe just forearms, staying there and pausing for a moment. And then you can begin to take the right arm underneath the left. Reach through that right arm. Take the left arm and begin to make circles all the way up overhead and back down. So think of your arm as a way to access your left side body. Creating that stretch as you reach your left arm overhead, you can gently press your left hip towards the feet, creating that stretch through the left side. And as you're making those circles, let your head start to follow the hands, so you might even feel your left shoulder sort of dropping towards the floor. We want to try to keep the arm straight as opposed to bending the elbow, but be playful. So rolling left shoulder, letting the head follow. If you want to just stop for a moment, breathe into your left lung. The hand can reach overhead. Taking a moment of stillness. Appreciating the spaciousness of your left side and the stability it affords you. We're going to change the leg position, maybe soften through your left arm. Take the left leg and stack it on top of the right knee. And now we're going to take that left hand all the way up and over in a circle. And as you do that, start to let your left shoulder blade fall. You're going to rotate all the way to the left side. Do that a few times. Inhale, coming back, rolling onto your right side. As you exhale, let that left side body, the back body, find the floor. So we're rotating in and out of a twist. And you can feel how your hips are responding. You might sense how your left inner thigh is rubbing on your right inner thigh. Your left knee will pull away from the right knee. You can even move, so we're moving right now from the arms, from the torso. But what happens if to come back onto the right side, you push your left knee and hip forward. So use your pelvis and your legs to draw your body into the right, and then draw that left hip towards the back, towards the left side, and let yourself open back up. So there's this sliding that's organically happening of that left thigh on top of the right. And again, you can keep moving, or eventually just stop and pause for a moment. Arms at your sides in the rotation. I always prefer to stop the big body from my head to my toes and just gently let the neck explore, going from side to side. Sensing the rotation, all the spaciousness in your left side. Take yourself back onto your right side if you're still. And here comes that fun core part. You're going to extend your left leg, bring your right leg into your body. So if you can hold the shin, the back of the thigh, game on, whatever works for you. Bring that right leg in and just start to rock onto the right side. So you can hold the leg to do that and then rock towards your back side. Just see how that feels. I've got something in the way. And if you end up way off your mat, that's part of these playful practices. Just kind of rock side to side. So what we ultimately want to do is to come up to a seated position holding just the right leg. Remember we did it earlier, holding both legs. So what you may find is initially you need to roll to your side, your right side, and push into your right arm. Go ahead and do that. But then come back down slowly, use your core, and see if you can hold that right leg and maybe just a little elbow to come back up. So not pushing into the hands. You can also hold your, if it's available, I always find holding my right shin. So we start by rolling to the right side to come up. There's that core work. Your right leg is in that external rotation position wherever you want to hold it. And then instead of rolling to the side, start to work towards just sitting straight up, holding that leg. So this holding your leg wherever it is will help to give you a little bit of momentum, a little more stability in the core. Just rocking up. Enjoy that back and forth. Let your head follow. And if you're using your hand, that's okay too. Use your arm and just give a little push with that right arm. And we'll come up last time. All the way up. We're going to go back to the YACEP position. So I'm going to ask you to bend your left knee. Place the left foot behind you, right heel towards that front left knee. Sit up tall, aligning your ears over your shoulders. And then slowly turn and look over that back right side again and just see if your gazing point has changed. I know for me, I can look like it feels like an entire foot further. Just see if anything's changed, pausing there. And breathe out. Come back to the center. We'll just take both legs out in front of us for a moment. Shake them out. If you'd rather do this, we're going to land and locate. So if you'd rather do this lying down, we get to use the core to come back up. You can do that so you can either stay seated or lie down. That's that full awareness of the floor supporting us and just feeling the two sides of your body. Always taking the time to appreciate what feelings or sensations you're creating in your body with your practice. And cue the core. You can bend your knees once again, grab the backs of the thighs or the shins, and rock up. Maybe do it a few times. Notice it's probably easier with both legs now. And I'll turn towards you. We're going to go back into the windshield wipers, hands behind us to support us first. And just let the knees drop to the left on an exhale, and back to center and the right. Just going side to side. But your ability to control where you're starting this movement from. Is it coming from your core, pushing your rib cage forward, from your hip, pushing the hip forward? Is it coming from your feet? Can you feel how your feet can push into the arch side and the pinky toe side? And this is the nice way to just let the legs find their mobility, but now take your hands off the ground. Either still keeping hands somewhere on the thighs or at your sides. You can set them on your shoulders and start rocking. Well, first let's do our test. Rock to the left And then take your hands all the way around to the outer left thigh. Spin as far as you can without forcing it. Just see how far your gaze goes back and what it feels like for your body. I get to look at the nice warmth of the fire. Slowly come back. So we'll explore going to that left side without using our arms to support us. So letting the core partner up with the leg joints. So you can move from the core first. And you'll find if your feet are too close together, it's really not going to work. You got to widen them out a little bit, wider than the hips. Use the legs, push so there's this forward momentum with the whole body and rotating around. And control coming back. I'm trying to keep myself on my mat, but you may be finding that you're going forward and forward. You're sort of walking on your butt forward. And you can start this journey from the torso, from the core, coming in and out. You could also try starting it from your feet. Does your core respond to the movement of your feet? Because it certainly should. That's why they touch the ground first, and they have all those proprioceptors. I think of them like little light bulbs going off in our feet and our ankles, telling our brain, they have to send that sensory signal all the way back up to the brain and say, these are the muscles we're going to use in our legs and our core to make this rotation. So let your feet lead a little bit, and then let the hips lead. And last one, and then we're going to find the Z-sit again. So you're going to the left this time. So your left foot, your heel is somewhere around the right knee. And if your right hip is way up here and you're not comfortable, try bringing that pillow, blanket, towel, anything you need underneath the left hip this time. Lift yourself up. So you'll see and this is my tighter side, sometimes I do this. If I lift up the left hip, then I can square my pelvis off more and it's a little more comfortable. So that's what we're going for. You can use that there. And first, just make some circles with your torso. Just acknowledging the leg position, this feeling of the legs being in the Z-sit. And can you just let your spine stack on top of that comfortably without those gripper muscles tightening? And I often find it's just these playful little circles, releasing any specific goals other than to just stack your ears over your shoulders and your shoulders over the hips and let your spine just slide nicely into the pelvis. Now that we're there, you can place your right hand on your outer right knee. And when you're ready, feel your big toe side of your right leg in the ground. Just lift the knee up into the hand and take it back down. So lifting up and releasing down. And you're probably sensing some of those outer hip muscles waking up. Just as high as you can go. Sometimes it's like just barely off the floor. You just want to feel the engagement and the release. If you get cramps, extend that leg out. Sometimes they cramp. They're saying, what are you doing? Asking for, I just tell my body that just means they want more blood because they're getting put to work. They want more nourishment. Whatever you can tell your body that helps to keep this comfortable for yourself. And watch that we're not slouching. That often happens. So stay forward on your sit bones. And then we're going to switch. So let the inner knee stay on the ground. You can think of taking your right hand. If you're falling over too, if you're slouching, left hand to the ground will help to support your spine in a longer position. But right hand could go to your foot. And think of lifting your right foot up towards your hand and taking it back down. This is usually the crampy one for me. I did say crampy, not crappy. Though they may sound the same. Just a slight little lift. So what we're doing is this thigh is already in internal rotation, and we're using the muscles of the internal rotators to lift that foot up. Just a little bit. And you're going to feel those outer hip muscles, inner thigh muscles. All right, last one. Now check to see that you're as straight up and down in the spine as you can be. Take your hands to your hips. Think of your pelvis like a bowl. As you breathe in, the pelvic bowl is going to tilt forward. So you'll come towards the front of your sit bones, and you can bring your chin down towards your chest, shoulders back, or elbows back. And then as you breathe out, tilt the pelvis back. So tilt it towards you'll come more onto your tailbone, away from your sit bones. And let your chin come up, and shoulders will pull forward like they're trying to touch your collarbones. Sometimes it's easiest to just find the movement in the spine first and let the head go along for the ride. So inhaling into the arch of the back and exhaling into the curl. But then if it's there, let the head come up as you curl and down towards the chest as you arch. Just gently letting the spine flow through this pattern of extension and flexion. And you can move from your pelvis. You can also explore moving from your shoulders, initiating from your shoulders. What happens if you use the leg muscles more, if you push any parts of the legs that are touching the floor, so the right inner knee and thigh, the left pinky toe side into the ground, does that give you a little bit more, direction, a little more strength? Last one. All right. And then we're going to take the left hand to the ground. So keep your right hand on that outer hip. We want to make sure those muscles are firing. And that was when we were lifting the inner knee. Can you feel that familiar feeling when we were lifting the knee off the ground? But now what you're going to do is, as you inhale, you're going to feel those muscles engage and draw your right hip and shoulder towards the left knee and rotate around towards the left shoulder. As you breathe out, just let it sit back down, sit and sink. Inhale up. Think of bringing your right front hip forward. And exhale back down. And you're deciding what is creating this movement. You can push that inner right knee into the ground and really use your momentum of the thigh coming forward, feeling your outer hip. And then releasing that. But you could also start from your head. Turn your head, let your shoulders follow your head, let your rib cage follow your shoulders, and then your pelvis, and lastly your leg. Try it different ways. Have different options to make the same movement. A variety of muscle combinations. And then once we found it, take your right hand, place it on the left shoulder, elbow up to about the height of the shoulder. So I'm looking at your pointy elbows. You're looking at mine. And inhale and rotate. And exhale back down. Let your head go as far as it wants without forcing it. So really my nose right now is staying right over the sternal notch. I'm letting my head follow my torso. And then at the very end, I might turn it a little bit more towards the shoulder, both shoulders. You could also turn the head first. How does that work? Turn the head and then let the shoulders follow. I find one of the best ways for me to tell if I'm moving from my head versus my lower body is imagining a plumb line dropping down from the crown of the head to the base of the spine. And is that plumb line staying intact as you turn? Because then you're really using more of your torso or maybe your legs. Versus if you're turning the head away from the plumb line. And then the torso follows. Or you could even turn your pelvis away from the plumb line. Last one. And then we're turning. This time you're going to hold your hand on the shoulder and just gently let the head Go side to side. I'm happy to report I can tell that I've been doing this quite a bit this week, because when I first started it, I had a lot of discomfort sitting in this position. And my body has really opened up, and it's remembering. The muscles start to remember. Just letting the head goes back and forth. You're gently nodding no, and you can do it with eyes opened or closed. Remember the importance, if you're not familiar with it, of not so much moving from the chin, but from the nose, or think of your skull or the soft palate in your mouth. So it's the skull leading the movement. We get very specific sometimes in our playfulness. And take the hand down, both hands to the ground. You're going to come onto the forearms and just feel the rotation through the spine. Pause there for a moment. Sometimes you got to just adjust your Z-sit a little bit. There's too much weight in that left hip, or you might have the towel underneath you. Decide if you still want that. And then we're going to take the left arm and thread it through, so we're resting on the back of the left shoulder, palm facing up. Let your head come down and rest. And start to feel your right arm. Just begin to make big circles with that right arm. Keeping the arm straight. And sense the way the arm is an extension of your torso. So the purpose of moving the arm is not just for the shoulder rotation or the mobility in the shoulder, but to create length on the inhale as you're reaching overhead, length through the right side. And as you come down, you're kind of shortening that right side. You can add your hip to this as your arm is reaching. Press your right hip away from the armpit. And as your arm comes back, squeeze the hip and armpit towards one another. And then let your head begin to follow the hand, your gaze. So you'll feel yourself, if you're resting right now on the right side or left side of the head, just above the ear, kind of rolling towards the back of the skull a little bit more. And then rolling back. If you have any discomfort in your shoulder, you can do this with your hand on your shoulder. It'll still allow the torso to move without jeopardizing your shoulder joint. And sometimes when we're only moving from the arm too, I might add, keeping your hand at your shoulder lets you tell how much of this is a torso movement, a torso rotation. And if you want to take a stopping point with your right side body long, you might take that right hand overhead, gently pressing your right hip away from the armpit. Be still, be present in your body. You can breathe into your right lung, feel the rib cage moving, the ribs sliding away from one another and then towards one another. And we'll open this up more into a full body twist. So now you're going to take the right knee and bring it up and stack the right knee on top of the left. I need to do a little adjustment. And then start to take that arm around again. But as you take the arm around, see if you can go a little further, dropping the shoulder blade to the ground. And notice how your right thigh bone will want to pull back like it's following the arm. Let that happen. You can even place your left hand on your right thigh, push your right knee forward as your right shoulder comes forward. And then as the right shoulder drops back towards the floor, draw your right hip back or let it follow. Your head's just rolling. Something I watch for if we tend to hold tension in the neck and shoulders, I'm guilty, especially lately, is that you're really letting the weight of the head be supported by the ground. We're not lifting it up. If you do find yourself lifting it up, you can take that towel, pillow, whatever you got, And just slightly lift the head so that both sides of the neck are equally long. We don't want to lift it way up, but just a little lift. So creating this movement from more of the upper torso and the ribs, but then see what happens if you create the movement from your hip and your thigh and your knee. So I do this on the inhale, push your right hip and slide the right thigh towards the back side of your mat. So right knee pulling away from the left knee, and then pull the right knee forward to the left knee to bring yourself back. So just feel that sliding of the inner thighs. So your whole body is along for the ride on this rotation. Oftentimes something gets stuck. It could be the shoulders, it could be the head, it could be the pelvis. So try to initiate it from the pelvis and also even from the head or the shoulders. And if you want to just stop and be still. Whole body still, or gently nodding the head from side to side. Letting the torso surrender. And if you're being still, roll back onto the left side. You're going to extend that top right leg. Bring the left leg into your body. You can hold the back of the thigh, you can hold the shin, whatever works, your knee. And just holding the leg, use that for a little bit to create some stability in your core, and just start to roll from right side to left side. I just like this one too because it almost feels like a massage for that left hip now, that outer left hip. You can roll onto it, feel that little bit of compression, and then come back off. So is it your core that's moving this? Sometimes I'll find I'm trying to tighten all my leg muscles in my right leg to help move. That's okay too, but just feel, where is this movement coming from? And then we begin to start to sit up. So the easiest way to do it is usually to roll to the left side. You can even use your left arm and push up. And even coming down, you could keep that arm there so you don't go crashing. It all depends on where you are. Or you can hold that leg, push just your elbow in, keep both hands somewhere on the right thigh. Or left thigh, shin. But we're coming to a seated position, holding on to shin, thigh. Whoop. Trying not to crash down. And this is my stuck side. My right side gets me right up. My left side is a struggle, which tells me all I need to know. So have fun with it. And then if you feel like you're rolling to the side and you want to just hold your shin bone or your leg and come straight up, you can do that too. Some find it's easier straight up. It just depends. You could even cradle your leg if you're a little more flexible there. Remember, when you're down, let your head rest, the neck muscles, the jaw, and then use your core to bring you back up. All right. And then we'll take that left foot down. We're just going to check that side. So back into our Z sit, left knee bent, left heel somewhere towards the right foot, and lift up tall, and begin to turn towards that back left thigh, and see if you feel like you're going a little. I know I'm not in the exact same alignment this time, but see if you feel like you can rotate further, or is it just more comfortable to be in this position? And then returning back to the center position. We'll come all the way down back onto the ground. Getting ready to finish our practice. Arms at your sides. We're in constructive rest with knees right about over the ankles. Back body's long and relaxed. And we're going to do the arch and curl from the floor, but we're going to lift up a little more than usual. So as you breathe in, imagine breathing to your belly. Let your tailbone press down and arch your back. So if when we were seated, we were taking the shoulders back, now you can push tailbone and shoulder blades into the ground. And as you breathe out, draw the shoulder blades away from the floor and lift your tail. So arch and curl. You can even take your arms and push your arms into the ground. Feel your back arch away from the floor. So the top of the inhale, you're on your tailbone and your shoulder blades. And on the exhale, the bottom of the exhale, your tailbone's lifted, your shoulders are squeezing, so the front body's short, back body long. If the head wants to get in on the action, the exhale, the chin comes away from the chest. And the inhale, chin comes towards the chest. So think of your tail and your tongue following each other. The tongue follows the tail on the inhale, and the tail follows the tongue on the exhale. And we're going to add a little bit for legs on this one. So now as you inhale, you can arch your back, take your legs out. You may not want to slide them all the way along yet, but if it feels good, you can. So it's like we're doing that full body yawn in the beginning. Take your legs long. As you exhale, still lift the tail, lift the shoulders, squeeze the front body short, and now bring your legs all the way into your body. As you inhale, arch the back, reach the legs. There's that full body yawn. Arms can reach or stay at your sides. Exhale, close up, bring the legs in. Inhale and extend the legs, extend the belly, feel your back body shorten. Exhale, curl the body. I have a whole video on this one too called Big and Small. That's what we're doing. Small as you breathe out and big as you breathe in. One or two more if you'd like. And then coming down, letting yourself be one with the ground, whether that support comes in legs extended or knees bent. Just acknowledge the joints in our legs one more time. Sense your toes, and with your legs completely relaxed, just wiggle your toes very playfully. Say thank you to your toes. Sense your ankles. You can point and flex your ankles or take them in circles. Ask them what they want. They may have a story to tell today. Let them tell their story through movement. And then feel your knees, take your awareness into your knees, and you can gently bend your knees, lifting your kneecaps up towards the sky, and then gently push the backs of knees into the ground. So I think of it like if you were dribbling a basketball and your knees were the basketball. Just doing them together, or you could do them opposite. Just kind of dribbling your knees, small, easy bends. And as we're moving the joints in the legs, can you keep everything else relaxed, or do you sense muscles tightening in your low back? That might be a sign. If muscles are tightening in your low back, what you can do is roll that towel up and put it underneath your thighs. That little bend will help to keep the low back longer and more relaxed, and still bending the knees. So this is another way to do it. And then we're going to move into the hips. So bend both knees, place the feet on the floor for a moment. First we'll do a side to side, just like the windshield wipers we did earlier, let the knees both fall to the left and then come back up, and knees to the right. See if you're moving from your hips, maybe pressing that top thigh bone forward and inward, bottom thigh bone downward and forward. Your head can look in the opposite direction of the knees if you'd like, letting it roll from side to side. Coming back to the center, we're going to lift the feet up on the floor. Last one where we're going to feel the core. So again, legs were on the ground, core was relaxed, but now you're going to lift up the legs and start to, you can even bring the thighs together like they're sewn shut in the middle. And start to make some circles with both knees. Remember we did one hip earlier. So you're really just doing hip circles, but with both hips. And I like to take arms out to the side so we stay stable through the shoulders. And notice how the core muscles are just slightly contracting to help support the movement in your legs. You can keep the knees bent. If you want a little bit more, you can extend your legs outward as you do this. And it doesn't have to be full extension, it might be partial. Just circling. Feel your sacrum and your hips in the backside. It's like you're massaging your sacrum and hips. You can switch the direction of the circles. If you find your low back is popping off the floor, so that arch in the back, you can exhale, press it down just a little. See if you can keep it there, or don't do it with your legs extended, because if the back is arching, we're missing the core in the front, helping to support. So we want to keep that low back long and touching the floor. The other way to do that is take hands underneath your buttocks to slightly tilt the bottom of your pelvis up. That will help to keep the low back on the ground. And any other playful movements, you can take your legs apart. Remember what it was like if you ever watched a 3-year-old on their back like this, right? Usually if they're on their back like this, it's because they're having some sort of a fit. And that's something I've thought about a lot this week, that I feel like I need to have a fit. Let yourself do that. There is justifiable anger, right? But let that out so you can come back into the space of your heart. And let the legs land. Maybe you notice you've created some warmth in your belly and your core. Placing one hand on your belly and the other on your heart. Maybe even feeling your own heartbeat, the physical heart beating. Notice your natural rhythm of your breath. And just ask your inhalation if it wants to be a little bit longer. And ask your exhalation if it wants to be a little bit slower and more complete. Feel the way each inhalation will hold you in that space of vitalizing energy, of levity, of activity. And the exhalation comes in to balance that with its soothing, purifying, releasing qualities. Just letting gravity sink into the ground on each exhale. Take a moment to acknowledge your legs from your toes. all the way up to your hips, your ankles, your knees, your hips themselves. And feel the way that the legs connect or plug into your torso. Where's that connection point? You're welcome to stay here as long as you'd like. Thank you for joining me and playing in your body. And I hope you were able to find a space of joy, safety, strength, and love. And if you're feeling an abundance of those qualities in yourself, please consider sending them out to those in need, particularly the people in Ukraine. Peace, joy, love, and light.